Alrighty, so we're actually pretty far along, and we've got the color controllers in, we've got the normal map controllers going in, or at least most of them. Um, Now, the shininess and stuff like that, which is your metallic, specular, roughness. Now, if I just plug this image that I have directly into the roughness, it does help out a lot in comparison to like if I take it off and that's just Alt left mouse button. You see how shiny that is? This really tones it down a lot so that I can actually get a much better, just a little bit more control over it, but it's still not as much as I would like. What it did do, you'll notice, is take the shine out of the grooves, which helps a lot so that we focus more on the surface that's on the outside. Imagine that there's mist, or it's early in the morning or something like that, and we just have more, it looks a lot better, but we still want more control over it. Okay. For this, once again, anytime I want to make a controller, not anytime, but most of the time, letter M, and I'm going to create a constant, hold down 1, enter, and then I combine these two. And this one. And then when I plug this in, watch where it's going to happen. And wow, I'm all of a sudden being swept back to hearing disco music and imagining a giant silver ball dropping down. So this is now uber ridiculously reflective and shiny, and that is because by default this value is at 0. Now for your roughness map, your metallic map, these actually calculate between 0 and 1. And when you go to 0, it's like, wow, look at the stars. It's just like really, really, wow, that's just unusual. I've seen cement and stuff that has little particles of crystal or glass in it, but this is yeah, it's very disco. Um, but now you're going to know why we created these parameters and brought in these constants and stuff, and how a master material and an instance material works. Anytime I have this right now, to change it, what happens is I type in 0.5, and then I have to wait for it to recompile all the data to actually draw this and show it. And the problem is that it's time consuming. I hit 1, wait, and then, does this. Now, if I do go and push it, I'm intensifying this, which takes it out even more. Look at that. That's kind of cool. See? It's just basically increasing the value of this, which has the reverse effect of the shininess in here. It makes it rougher. And by making it more rough, it's actually cutting down how shiny and how reflective it is. Problem is that when I start to have a whole bunch of these, I don't want to wait forever every time I make one little adjustment. Oh, what about a 1.6? Wait, 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 wait for it. And then it comes up. So, this is where the instance material comes in. This is where it gets cool. I take this, right click on it, say convert to parameter. And then I tell this where it says none. I go over and I can just say, you know what, I'm going to change it, the parameter name, not the group name, but the parameter name, to roughness. I could just leave it there. I could say roughness intensity or something like that. And I'm going to show you something else. Remember that color control that we created this vector 3, but I want to convert it to a vector parameter. The only difference, and what parameter is, anytime you see that, a texture parameter, a vector parameter, a scalar parameter, all that means is that I convert it so that it actually has a little window to the outside of this material that allows me to control it through some other means other than being inside of it. And that means it can be controlled, we'll go over that much later, but it can be controlled by events, like when someone throws a light switch in your game, and you want to shut the material, the emissive material off. It's a parameter. When you want there to be a red alert on the bridge of your starship, it's a parameter. When you want a particle system to be triggered by something, the color changes. You press a button and the flame is supposed to change from blue to red. It's a parameter. So I have this guy here. Right click, convert to parameter. This only really, it doesn't work on every single thing in your scene. Some things do. A texture parameter would allow you to be able to add more textures or change a master material. But I'm going to take this one, I'm going to call this one brick color. So I'm going to save this. Okay. And it takes a minute. And I'm actually going to do one more, this guy down here, which controls the secondary normal intensity. Yeah, you convert to a parameter. Now, unfortunately, it gets rid of the description, so I'll have to do that again. Controls the, I should have just copied that first. Controls the secondary normal intensity. And I'll call the parameter name sec detail intensity. Okay. Now, okay, save this one more time. And everywhere that I have converted a parameter, or excuse me, a vector or a constant vector or any of those things into a parameter, watch what happens in a second from now. So I've saved this file. I go, oops, click on this, takes me to that material, and I right click. I'm actually going to rename this one. I'm going to call it, I'm going to call this one Brick Master, because it's the master brick material. And I'm going to right click on it and say create instance material, which duplicates it, and that's okay. I'm just going to leave that as is for right now. Now, this is an instance material of this. This is the parent, this is the child. And much in real life, the parent influences the child. Well, that's not true. The child influences the parent, but not in the way that in the mathematical sense here. Basically, this drives this, but this can actually change how this is driven. So in other words, if I double click on this, here is what I created. Here is the instance material. Looks just like the master. There's the master inside of it. But everywhere that I created and named a parameter, it's showing up in here. Which means if I click, if I start going in here and clicking these, that's how you turn them on. And I say, wow, you know what? I zoom in and I see those details. What would happen if I increased the detail intensity? You see that? That's way tighter now. Suppose I want to adjust the roughness. Turning it down, it becomes, oh wow, it's like it's raining, it's wet. I could even animate a normal map going down this to make it look like the raindrops are pouring down this. This is how it's done. See that? So now you start to see the power of this. You might also notice one other thing. You remember a few minutes ago when I kept doing that, every single time I would type in a value, I'd have to wait for it to recompile. Well, the cool thing with the instance material is that it has a lot of benefits, okay? If I make multiple master materials, not that many, but just say one or two for metal, one for plastic, one for paint, um, whatever the case is. And I build these controllers into them. I could have like maybe 4 or 5 master materials and then have dozens of instances based off of them, where I could go in and change the properties of each one without having to remake an entire brand new material. Okay? And the perk of this is that I'm tricking the game engine. It actually thinks that they're just the master material, and these are just instances. They're not counting as a full-on new material. There is some memory overhead when you start swapping out texture parameters and swapping out textures, so you're adding more texture space. But most of the calculations are now pre-calculated and set up, and I can have a lot more instance materials than original materials without taking a hit. So if I took this guy now and I'm looking at it going, wow, you remember I changed the bricks so we could see it. Now they're ginormous. And what I'd want to do is go back to that master material and build a controller so that I can change, don't have to keep going into here to change how much it's tiling. So in other words, if I hit change this now from 1 to 1, now I'm going to pull this out and I want to multiply. So I could have pressed M left mouse, but I could just type in MUL. There's the multiply. Pull this out. CON for a constant. And I'm going to right click and convert this to a scalar parameter, which is what this guy is. I'm just going to change this name and say that this is going to tile, oops, wrong one, description, tiles, detail, normal map. So type in second normal tile, or I could just say detail tile, one or the other. Then I'm going to plug this into where the UVs were. And I'll grab this, copy, paste. And now, here's one thing. I've got to change the names of these guys because otherwise they are being thought of as one. So because they have the same parameter name, they're actually linked. And if I change one, it's going to change the value of the other. So I have to change, oh, this isn't the secondary, this is the primary. I'm just going to say primary tile because it's not just tiling the normal map, the big normal map, the primary normal map. It's primary, it's basically going to do everything. Good. And so now I'll plug this into everywhere that this texture coordinate was going, which is basically right into the backs of all of my main textures. Okay, you go into there. This multiply then goes, where else are you going? Over here. Over here. Over here. So it's controlling all these textures now. And I have to make sure I put a 1. There we go. And the values of these here. There we go. Now, make sure. Okay. Save. That original one is not plugged into the detail map because that's a different pattern. I want to be able to control how much it tiles independently. But if I go to my instance material, what you're going to notice now is I have more options for control, those ones I created. And now if I go in, let's attach the instance material to these meshes. Select it here. Say, go to that one. Select you. Go to that one. Select you. Go to that one. There we are. And now I can go in and go, wow, that's really off. So let's fix that. Primary tile. Primary? Hold on. Oh, I think I named them backwards. Let me double check that. That looks weird. This is where you have to double check everything. Ah, I did. Dur. You actually go here. You actually go. And this is not tile the detail. This tiles all the textures. Or I could just say, to be more accurate, tiles the bricks. And this tiles the details. So if we hit save, let's make sure after it compiles that it's actually connected to everything that it should be. So this is tiling the detail, which goes into there. This one is tiling the brick texture, the ambient occlusion, the roughness, and the color. Okay. That's better. Now we're cooking with gas. And then I could say, oh, you know what, my secondary, I want to tile that more. Do I want to tile it less? Look at that. So now it looks like, wow, this is way more decayed. When you make it larger, look at that damage that you can actually see. Or we can make it just a lot tighter. So when we get up all up close and personal, it just retains its detail. And, oh, we don't like that color? Well, we can just change that. All from these. And then I can start to add my parameter or my constants, convert them to a parameter like I did for these, and plug them into these other sections. Okay. And we start to see this really isn't that complicated. So I didn't finish everything, but I want you guys to jump in, and I've given you a lot to work on. What I want you to do, start pulling in these meshes, make your own file project just like we did, and then you're going to actually work on that and start texturing, and then just assign them. So if I have this one last thing, and we say, wow, you know what, this is cool, but the original one, there's like different ones for different areas, right? How do we do that? Well, that's simple. So let's say for the trim, which would be up the trim material. How nice. I could rebuild it, or if I know I'm just going to put brick there, watch this. I can duplicate either the original master material or make a duplicate from the instance to start it off where the instance was, how it was modified and where it's at based on its settings. And if I say, oh, create an instance material of the instance material, let's just call this one um, brick trim instance. With that selected, I go, there's my trim, and I'm going to put it in there. And then this one, I'm going to change. I want it to be darker. Don't you crash on me. I will be very disappointed in you. Let's make a save. In Unreal, when things start going weird, you want to make sure you save all because that's when things go nuts. Oh, turn these on. Forgot, even though it was based off of an instance, all your controls are shut off. So click there. Now, one thing, so I could switch it and then start to have, look at that, I start to get this dark trim in these areas. How cool is that? Um, it is, remember, still multiplying based off of the original color. So if you want a total control over it, just pull like the red channel in the original master material. Hit save. And you'll have to adjust your other instances because all of them were based off of the fact of multiplying on that particular one. This is a very, very, colorful kind of building. But I can go in now and say, oh, you know what? Now, yes, now I can make this more red, like so. Maybe kind of pull it down a little. And then I could go to the other one and change it. Or maybe it's a lighter color, much, much, much lighter color. And I'm thinking, dark is nice. And then I could just go in and start tweaking them out and applying them and adjusting that they are looking okay, and do the same for the white. So I want you guys to start working on that. And what you might want to think about doing is clearing this area out, just having a little bit of fun and duping these guys over. Oh, got the wrong one. Do Alt left mouse to drag. These are designed to snap together based off of the grid. Oh, that's looking cool already. Imagine if I'd made a sidewalk. Hint, hint, something you could do. And as I start to add these pieces and stuff, you guys can start to have some more fun with it. Let me know if you have any questions. I'm going to make one more video, which is how to turn it in, but that should get you started off on it. You do not, by the way, you do not have to, and I'll post this, go and put every single channel in. Just start getting used to the nodes, but I will give you extra points if you can actually fill it up and get some controllers and show it.